All right, we're getting news that the Enforcement Directorate has failed to make any headway in the investigation in Singapore regarding the city limousine scam or the Lalit Modi case and have returned empty-handed. The three-member team of the Mumbai Enforcement Directorate, who had gone to Singapore primarily to execute the provisional attachment order of a $29 million city limousine scam case under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, have returned back with no positive news. A senior ED official confirmed that the Indian team met a legal team of Singapore with a request to repatriate the laundered money back to Indian banks. However, Singapore authorities insisted that their laws do not allow them to hand over the money deposited in Singapore to any other country. Singapore authorities told the ED team that their country's laws do not allow them to hand over the money deposited in their banks back to India. The ED team had gone to Singapore to bring the stashed money of Syed Masood, the main accused in the city limousine case, who had diverted India's investors' money to Singapore, a total of $42 million. This will affect the Lalit Modi case, as India is in the process of issuing letter rogatory to Singapore for seeking banking and financial details of Lalit Modi in an IPL money laundering case. Viren Singh Gunawat is now joining us with more details. Viren, was the ED not aware of this particular law of Singapore that they cannot send back the money to Indian banks which was laundered by Syed Masood to Singapore?
Maha, in fact, they were quite aware. They had also taken a senior official heading the legal cell of Enforcement Directorate in Mumbai in that three-member team. But Singapore, on the first day, there was a verbal assurance given by the Singapore authorities that yes, the work would be done, attachment, the execution would take place, and you can take back the money of $29 million. But next 2-3 days were quite complex. Legal issues came out before them, and in fact, there was secrecy laws and various other laws that Singapore government said that due to these laws, able to repatriate the money. In fact, there was a disputed case of $13 million US dollar as well, which is also a stash money by Syed Masood. So, overall, in last 4 days of the Singapore trip, the ED team faced a complex situation where, despite pushing hard, they were not able to get it through, and now they are planning to go complain it at an international level, where Singapore has been non-cooperative to the Indian government.
Okay. Consulting editor Rajdeep Sardesai is also now joining us on the phone line. Rajdeep, there's been no headway made by the Enforcement Directorate in the limousine case that they had gone for to Singapore. Does it indicate that getting financial and banking details of Lalit Modi will also possibly yield no result in Singapore for the ED?
Well, what is very clear is that the ED, after coming back from Singapore, has been unable to come up with any really clinching evidence which will be enough for them to be able to file a substantive charge sheet against Mr. Lalit Modi, which could eventually then result in a red corner notice for him, which a section of the ED had claimed was their original intention when they went to Singapore. What is becoming clearer is 5 years after this story really broke in 2010, the ED had dragged its feet for a long time. And clearly Mr. Modi has had enough time to cover his tracks, particularly in the context of the alleged payoffs that he got during the 2009 IPL, which was conducted, and the allegation that he got a facilitation fee during the nature of during media contracts that were handed out. Now, if the ED says that it has been unable to make a breakthrough in the case, it will make it much more difficult for the ED to file a charge sheet and be able to have enough evidence to persuade the British authorities to either deport Mr. Modi or file a red corner notice through the Interpol. So clearly this is a setback if our information that is coming through the ED is true, that they haven't been able to achieve the desired breakthrough in their when they went to Singapore.
Well, Rajdeep, it appears that their primary focus this time around was another case, the limousine scam case related to Syed Masood, but they were hinging their hopes on this case for Lalit Modi's case as well. So what I'm trying to understand is that hadn't the ED done its homework, because the Singapore laws, as they've been told when they reach Singapore, says clearly that it does not allow them to either send back the money or perhaps even share information regarding banking and financial transactions.
You know, the simple point is that in a case like this, which has taken so long, you're talking about a case which is about 2009-10. Now we are in 2015. That's a long period of time. You've given Mr. Modi enough time, perhaps, to ensure that he is able to cover, as I said, his tracks.
Yes.
If the Enforcement Directorate was serious about pursuing this case, they should have pursued it much earlier. That would have given them a better chance than they've had today. So clearly, the Enforcement Directorate will now have to work overtime, because the strongest case, it has always been believed, against Mr. Lalit Modi is the 2009 IPL case, and allegations that an $80 million, about 425 crores, went off as a facilitation fee in a contract between MSM, which were the rights holders, and WSG, which was being asked to conduct the production, which had the production rights of the IPL.
Okay.
So I think that particular case is the one where the expectation was that Mr. Modi would be pushed on the back foot. If there is no breakthrough, then clearly the ED is going to find it much more difficult to nail Lalit Modi.
All right. Remember that India is in the process of issuing a letter rogatory to Singapore for seeking financial and banking details of Lalit Modi. But where will that case be headed now? It's up in the air for the moment. Rajdeep, many thanks for joining us with those details.